Okay, hello everyone. Um, it's me, Simon Roller here. Today we're gonna be something a little bit different. We are going to be. I should probably look at the camera instead of me, because I'm not gonna be seeing OBS this whole time. Um, we are going to be practicing a presentation for AP Art History. This is about Unit 8, I think. Unit 8. It's about um specifically North American tribes. I don't know. There is some South America, I think. It's Indigenous Americas tribes. So today I'm sort of just gonna be. I was like thinking like, oh yeah, I should upload like a video, right? I should upload like something. So today I thought I'd practice a presentation that I'm gonna do tomorrow, and maybe this will just be the video. There won't be anything cool about it at all. I'm just gonna be reading off notes to practice for a presentation. So, or maybe this will help someone. I don't know. Maybe it will like YouTube and they find this. Okay. Is this working? Okay. Yeah, it is. So, let's get started. There are 574 officially recognized Native American tribes today, with each occupying a different part of North America. Because these are so spread out, they have different cultures than one another. For example, the Southwest, I'm going to be like pointing at this. Can you see the mouse? Hold on. I don't know if it shows the mouse. I needed to show the mouse for this. It can be like my one thing this whole time. Okay, yeah, it says it's capturing cursor. So, south, western, which frequents pottery, the northwest, which has a lot of trees, so they make wood carvings, the Great Plains over here, which mostly work with beads and a hide, though they sort of just have a range of everything because it's the Great Plains. There's not a lot of wood there, but there's some. There's not a lot of clay there, but there's some. And of course, there's the East, which is mostly frequents beads, made out of bones, like the Great Plains guys. But they also they were the first contact with the colonies. The 13 colonies. Everyone knows about those already. They traded with them, and were able to sort of make use like almost any material from the foreign world to make their artwork. So we may see some of that later. Actually, I think we see it coming up. The bandolier bags. So the bandolier bags were made by different tribes and First Nations across the Great Lakes and prairie regions. They held like soldier like rifle ammo, and but they were primarily made by Native American women, using trade cloth with beads embroidered with on the cloth, but the beads were embroidered on the cloth, and silk ribbons, as you can see right here, were like fastened on each end. They weren't really very conventional, and now they're mostly just used as like a fashion statement or like a souvenir. You could probably buy them somewhere if you went over like to the east. Maybe you'd find it in like I don't know. I was about to act like I don't know Kentucky. Is Kentucky in the east? I don't know anything about geography anymore. Um, but yeah, you would be able to buy one of these probably if you went on like a reservation, of course. And and this would be the section where I like ask the class like because it's basically like this whole thing's like, oh yeah, like what region is it from, guys? Who's gonna answer it? I'll give out candy or something. But that's most of the APR history class is just me like having to engage the audience with whatever nefarious tactic I can come up with. Or we like everybody does this. It's not just me. So, I'd ask the class like what region of tribes must have made this since it features beads and trading with the colonies, which is of course the east region of natives. They made this, so that's all I got on that. Now time for the hardest part of the presentation, the pronunciation of a tribe in a region which I'm not going to name yet. I'm gonna make y'all do this one on this time. This is the Kwakwaka'wakwa tribe. It's made out of 5,500 people, and their masks, this is like a main part of them. This is like a really only thing we're going to talk about. Their masks, they have transformation masks, which allowed you to like act as different animals. They were like the OG fursuits, basically. So it basically allowed you to like manifest a transformation into like a mythical being or one animal into another. So there'd be like a bird inside or like a bird on the outside, and if you open it up, it becomes like a monkey. So it's like a really cool it's a really cool thing, honestly. I don't know why we still don't have them. So well we don't have them now. So and they were mostly worn by like dancers and ceremonies with they had like some traditions where they'd like dance around. Uh as cultures that we don't understand usually do. And they like open the mask and they animate it while they're dancing, and it's really interesting. So here's an example right here. As I wrote right there, it's made out of cedar wood, strings, and feathers. So we know like most of the tribes love to hunt, and now that you can see it closer, like see it, like look at it closer, you can now know which region we're talking about. Which region made this class? Remember, Northwest we used wood, Southwest to like south they used clay. Great Plains used like basically like a mix of everything, but not like too specific. But they had beads. And the East had like more complex bead designs and also trade with foreigners. So the answer to this would be the Northwest region, because you can see right here, it's a big wood mask with like very few like string and feathers, which they just got from like hunting and like spinning flax, I guess. So yeah, it's really interesting, honestly. It really is. So let's actually talk more about this. And that's also a part of the 250, by the way, in APR history. That's a part of the 250. So is the bandolier bag, but this isn't a part of the 250. This is just more so we can go in depth with the culture because it's kind of hard to figure out things to talk about for this slide because this whole unit is only 8% of the AP test, so there isn't really that much here. And there is like six other people in this presentation. By the way, I'm just showing you mine, which is why it kind of like starts off on a bit of a like a weird footing. If you didn't notice. So here is the Kwak Waka Wakwa belt. And we're also going to, and the god that's on it, Sisiut. So this belt was made in the late 19th century by some unknown artist in the Kwakwaka'wakwa tribe, and the they were it was mostly worn by the dancers that we were talking about before. This was also a part of the ceremony, um, and it was also in potlatch ceremonies. If you know what those are, I should definitely define it in these notes, so because I won't know what they are, and I still don't know what they are. But essentially, I think they'd wear both. They'd wear the mask and the belt. Um, and so the wearing of the belt meant that the dancer would inherit um the the signaled the privilege that the dancer would have inherited. Oh, okay. So it's saying it's just like saying like what you inherit from your parents. It's saying that you would inherit things from your parents, and basically just like signaling or through marriage. So it's just saying I'm a lucky guy and I'm getting things from um people. And now let's talk about the god depicted on it, the Sisiutl. So the Sisiutl is a powerful supernatural double-headed sea serpent, which is a shapeshifter in this sort of mythology, which symbolizes protection, spiritual power, and balance between life and death. And you'll notice if you want to see like if you want to talk more like overarching plot of APR history, this is really common. You know, like like commonly like yin yang, uh, and even today we can see it in like like the justice system. It's like I forget. I'm gonna say like it's either called a pendulum or a balance, or maybe it's both of those. But like whenever it's like the person holding like the two like perfectly balanced cups on the little pendulum, that's like perfect balance. It's like yin yang. There's a lot. of basically if you see something that's like symmetrical or like in terms of like literally like there's two heads on this guy like and also like sort of in like some sort of like like imaginatively symmetrical I guess because you see right here two serpents going in opposite directions, right? So it's symmetrical forces kind of canceling it out, like if you've ever been to physics, that guy's going left, that guy's going right, it doesn't go anywhere. um so both of those are really good ways to indicate or to like find out because they find out like what a god means because they quite frequently indicate that it's a god of balance of some kind. And here's a really boring one. It's on the 250. So this was made. So this depicts several dancers in some sort of tribe doing the sun dance. We know like what it's named after. You can see it right there in the middle. They are gathered around a a buffalo head. If you could see right there, it's kind of easy to tell because you can see like what buffaloes actually look like over here. This is a buffalo head, and um and there's an eagle above it right there. So it's kind of flying up. And the men are dressed in feathers and headdresses, dancing around like the poles, which represents a grass dance. And with their arms like sort of, I'd probably like while I'm standing up, I'll probably mimic it, but I'm not really gonna mimic it right now. They're doing this. um, and so the artist Kotsuyogo shows these people sort of in motion, like you can kind of imagine them doing their dance, which is really like really good for this kind of artwork, which is kind of hard to do in general because it's on hide and it's made of like it's I don't even know. It I guess as it like I mean it's made out of like I mean I'm just gonna guess paints, maybe chalks. I don't know. I mean it's hide, so it can't really be too forceful. Um, but yeah, the Sundance, the people participating in this refrain from eating or drinking. And that's about all I've got to say about that. Except that the most important part about this is the artist itself, because he was able to, I guess. So first of all, the painting is meant to show the period of immense change for the Shoshone people, which is the people he depicted here. That was the tribe he was a part of. So, so he is the most likely one to have created it. We don't know for sure. And so it kind of so this is kind of like a one-upping of sorts, or this is kind of like a good sign, or like a positive, because we all know, unless you don't believe this, that the Native Americans mostly were negatively affected by the introduction of foreign peoples to their lands and taking over everything they own and knew and cared for. And also dying from disease. So this guy actually was one of the few people that had a slight one up because he was able to profit by selling work of his people. And they all thought like, whoa, this is so niche, this is so indie, and they all just bought it off him and put him in museums, which you can still see today. Like in the Brooklyn Museum, this is where it's located. So this guy, despite everything going to shit, he was able to make a profit off it. So hustler culture. He's the OG hustler. And this is a ceramic vase, a ceramic vessel. Sorry. Um, and so this is made by Maria Martinez, and she revolutionized Native American pottery by elevating hand-coiled black-on-black ceramic vessels, as you see here, from functional items to celebrated fine art. And so these vessels are recognized for their striking contrast between a high gloss burnished surfaces and like matte black painting designs, creating created through like a reduction firing process that removes oxygen from the kiln. I don't know I don't know how I'm going to talk about this while I'm actually presenting it. So inspired by ancient pottery, as you can see right here, it kind of it kind of feels a bit ancient, doesn't it? Like it doesn't really feel like from the time period of 1939. This is in 1939, by the way. This looks like something from like the 1500s. So like these sort of ceramic vases vessels that Maria Martinez made, mostly featured a like water serpents, like styled feathers and rain clouds, arranged in horizontal bands, like these, that complement the vessel's form. Because like this is kind of sticking out a bit, so you get to see like thick line strokes, um, with very like I don't know, like bold patterns. So it's basically a bunch of hippie shit. And so this is a really simple one here. Um, this is the French trading with the natives, because they had a bunch of furs, so they were easily able to sort of buy a bunch of shit off of the natives. Um, and they also gave beads to them too, so they had furs and beads. Don't normally mention the beads in history because it's kind of boring compared to furs. France and furs, the kind of alliteration, all that. So this is the most important part the most important part about this, which I mentioned already, is that the Eastern natives were able to make their works um like for the benefit of themselves through money and trade. Not really money. They weren't really there wasn't like dollar bills, but they were trading for supplies, um which was a good benefit to them, despite them all dying from disease and all that shit. So, and now let's compare a few things here. So, let's compare it to the Alto Quapu tunic. Alto Quapu tunic. So, the symbolism wise, the tunic, which is the one on the right, by the way, it kind of looks like your grandma's blanket, which isn't really like, comfortable at all. It's also known as a quilt. So the tunic represents imperial power and unity because it was only worn by high-ranking officials in the Inca tribe. This is an Inca tunic, by the way. While the bag on the left represents cultural resistance and adaptation by profiting off of tourism, as we already talked about. So while the tunic used traditional high-quality textiles, um, as you could see, I mean, like if it's still alive today, it must be pretty high quality. The bag uses, European trade materials. The beads are made of glass instead of bone, so that's a good indicator. And so, function-wise, while the tunic was a unique garment for a single ruler, as we just talked about, high-ranking officials, bandolier bags were worn by many in the community for ceremony and, to practice their resistance, adaptation, and profiting off of their own misery, basically. So this one's previously in the slide, people already talked about the Great Serpent Mound. One of my presenters already talked about it in the slide. So this was me just sort of like finding that slide and thought it was kind of funny. So I wanted to draw the snake and show it off to the class. And this is my excuse. I made a comparison slide here. So both of these are large earthworks and like geoglyphs. They're land used to make like an image. The top is used to make a snake, and the bottom is used to make I don't even know like an egg guy doing a handstand. Humpty Dumpty maybe. So the serpent was built most likely by Medina or like Fort ancient cultures. So in theory suggests that it may have been used as like a ceremonial site or astronomical calendar. Uh, while the bottom one, the one we just talked about, the one that we talked about, the second one right there, the Nazca lines, it was created somewhere between 500 BC to 500 AD, so we have 1,000 year gap, so we don't really know much about this at all. Um, and some theories include astronomical alignments, ritualistic significances, um, or as markers for water. So we basically don't know what the fuck this is. And this is sort of, they talk about all this before my slides here, but I just go over a little bit here. So yeah, this is just one slide of a timeline. So it starts with Chavin, which is early Andine, like a religious center at Chavin de Huatar, like pilgrimage site. And they had underground galleries. They had like shamanistic transformation imagery, which is sort of, I guess that would be people turning into animals or animals turning into people. I'm gonna have to maybe look into that. Then the Teotihuacan, Teotihuacan, probably that's definitely how you pronounce it, which is which was a massive. They made massive planned cities and like pyramids, like the Pyramid of the Sun, and they had urban scale. So instead of it just being like little like villages or whatever that were um separated, they then had cities. And they were all under mostly one ruler. And so after that, we had the Mayans, which had independent city states. So we could see, like, as we evolve, we're sort of branching out, we're becoming what we know today. So so yeah, we had independent city states. We had calendars and writing systems and ruler portraits. I don't know if that's a ruler portrait. Hopefully that's not, because that does not look like anyone that you'd want to rule a country, but or a state or a city even. But we've had worse. So let's talk about the Aztecs. The Aztecs, they had a capital. They were very militaristic. They had ritual sacrifices where you like stab someone and you let their blood like go all over the altar. So they were kind of fucked up. Um, and they had monumental stone sculptures such as I'm not gonna say that word. I'm gonna say that word. Koyo Koyo Koyolakwi. Koloya Koyolakwi. Koloyaki. Koloyaki. Yes. Anyway, the Inca tribe, their capital was at Cusco, like the guy from the Emperor's New Groove and all that. Um, they had precise masonry, so um, ashlar masonry, I don't know what that is, but they had precise that. And they had road systems which unified the empire. So, we had separate city states, and we also had roads in between those, which made them no longer just states, they were cities in a state. Genius. And then they also had sites like Machu Picchu, which show harmony with the landscape. So they were sort of not only building onto the landscape, but also understanding the landscape and living with it. And that's all my slides. That's what I just presented to you was 11 slides. I hope you enjoyed. Uh, and I hope this was worth your time. It surely was not worth mine. Actually, it actually was worth mine. I'm definitely gonna go back here and edit some things to make sure I can understand it while I'm presenting it. And I hope you guys liked the video. See you guys next time with something completely different. Goodbye.